They trafficked heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, and marijuana.
That's gonna be hard to get on!
The ocean has always been a highway, a place where borders fade and rules bend under the waves. But in the last few decades, it has become a proving ground for the world's most ruthless criminals. They trafficked heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, and marijuana, and they did it with a level of audacity that seems almost cinematic. This isn't just about small-time smuggling. We're talking about entire cartels moving massive quantities of drugs, running sophisticated operations that cross oceans and continents. There are lots of different cartels, and each has its own way of operating. The Colombian, Mexican, and Central American networks intertwining with international mafia groups that stretch as far as Europe and Asia. Every shipment is a calculated risk, but the rewards are enormous, which is why these criminals keep pushing the limits. It's not just the drugs that make this work dangerous. It's the technology, the planning, and the secrecy. They have learned to exploit the gaps in law enforcement, using darkness, bad weather, and the sheer vastness of the oceans to their advantage. For the men and women tasked with stopping them, it's not a job they take lightly. The Coast Guard, the DEA, and other law enforcement agencies face constant innovation. Smugglers are always one step ahead. And every so often, something appears that doesn't just challenge their skills, it shocks them. Something built not to be seen, to vanish into the sea, carrying a payload so massive it can alter entire markets. This story is about one such encounter. Out in the middle of nowhere in the vast expanse of the Eastern Pacific, a vessel appeared that didn't look like anything the Coast Guard had seen before. It didn't resemble a fishing boat, a yacht, or a cargo ship. It was low, gray, almost like a shadow riding the waves. And when the crew finally boarded it, what they found inside left even the most seasoned operators stunned. This is the world of narco submersibles, semi-submersibles designed for stealth, for invisibility, and for destruction. And the story begins with a simple sighting. On June 18, 2019, the Coast Guard cutter Monroe was patrolling the Eastern Pacific, miles away from any shore. The ocean stretched endlessly, waves breaking rhythmically, the horizon a line of steel and blue. That's when something unusual appeared. From a distance, it looked like nothing more than a small gray dot bobbing in the water. But as the Monroe drew closer, it became clear that this object was riding far lower in the water than any fishing vessel should. Only a sliver of the hull was visible, and the gray paint matched the ocean's palette almost perfectly. To the untrained eye, it could have been a trick of the waves. To the crew of the Monroe, it was an anomaly that demanded attention. The Coast Guard has a term for objects like this: SPSS, self-propelled semi-submersibles. Most people simply call them narco subs. They are not submarines in the traditional sense. They don't dive deep beneath the waves. Instead, they are designed to sit low in the water, almost invisible, carrying hundreds or even thousands of pounds of cocaine. The sighting alone was alarming. Something that small, moving at only 10 knots, could contain a massive cargo, and it could vanish in moments if the crew wasn't careful. A small chase boat was deployed. Cutting through the waves toward the semi-sub, 2 Coast Guardsmen climbed aboard as it moved, pounding on the hatch, shouting commands. Every second counted. If the vessel had a scuttle valve, a hidden mechanism designed to flood the hold, the cargo could be lost in minutes. The tension was palpable. Every eye on deck was focused, every movement deliberate. This wasn't just a boarding. It was a race against time and physics, against the ingenuity of smugglers who had spent years perfecting a design that could defeat radar, evade detection, and vanish without a trace. The boarding itself was a dangerous ballet. The deck beneath their boots pitched with the waves. The hull of the semi-submersible was narrow, and every movement risked destabilizing it further. The team shouted for the hatch to open. From below, muffled voices responded, a mixture of fear, defiance, and calculation. When the hatch finally cracked open, a small hand lifted it just enough for the boarding team to see inside. Inside was a long, narrow corridor, barely wide enough to walk upright. The air was thick with diesel fumes, hot and sticky, clinging to their skin and lungs. The floor tilted dangerously with each swell, making every step a calculated risk. And then they saw it. Wall to wall, brick after brick of cocaine, packed so tightly that there was almost no space to move. The scale of the operation became immediately clear. Tens of thousands of pounds of drugs compressed into a vessel that from the outside seemed insignificant. The Coast Guard teams had to move quickly. Each second spent inside increased the risk of triggering a scuttle valve or tipping the boat. Their mission was to recover as much cargo as possible while keeping the crew alive and the vessel from disappearing beneath the waves. Every motion was measured, every decision split-second. It was a tense combination of physical endurance, strategy, and raw nerve. One wrong step could lose the cargo or, worse, cost a life. The operation is a dance between law enforcement and organized crime. The Narco Submersible, designed for stealth and efficiency, now faced its adversaries. And in that moment, the tide was in the Coast Guard's favor. But the risk remained high. The ocean, unpredictable and merciless, was a partner neither side could control. When the final tally came in, the numbers were staggering. The cramped hold contained more than 17,000 pounds of cocaine, brick after brick, stacked to maximize space. The sheer volume was hard to comprehend. Each bale represented years of cultivation, processing, and smuggling operations spanning multiple continents. This wasn't a small shipment. It was an industrial-scale enterprise engineered to flood markets and generate tens of millions of dollars in revenue. The semi-submersible itself was an engineering marvel for its purpose. Its low profile, simple controls, and narrow structure were all designed to evade detection. The bales were arranged with precision, accounting for weight distribution and the shifting of the vessel on the waves. Even small miscalculations could lead to disaster. It was a floating proof of concept for smuggling, showing just how far these criminal organizations would go to move their product undetected. For the Coast Guard, witnessing the interior of a semi-submersible was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The ingenuity of the smugglers was undeniable, but so was the danger. Every moment inside, every bale lifted, brought them closer to the edge of a potential catastrophe. The reveal wasn't just about the quantity of drugs. It was a reminder of the stakes and the complexity of the global narcotics trade. Semi-submersibles are the cutting edge of maritime smuggling technology. They aren't true submarines. They don't dive beneath the waves for hours. Instead, they ride so low that only a fraction of their structure is visible, blending seamlessly with the ocean's surface. From a distance, they are nearly invisible to radar and nearly impossible to spot with the naked eye. Most are made of fiberglass and other lightweight materials. The hull is simple yet effective, with minimal compartments and a focus on cargo capacity. The controls are basic: a throttle, a small tiller or wheel, and a few gauges. Navigation is handled with handheld GPS units. Every feature is optimized for stealth and efficiency. The semi-sub doesn't need luxury, speed, or comfort. It needs invisibility, endurance, and capacity. These vessels can travel hundreds of miles across open ocean, carrying thousands of pounds of narcotics. They are built for a single purpose: to evade law enforcement, deliver cargo, and vanish if discovered. Their design reflects a deep understanding of the ocean, radar technology, and human psychology. Crews of smugglers understand that the semi-sub's effectiveness lies in its ability to become almost invisible, to move silently and unpredictably, and to disappear without a trace. The most ingenious and dangerous feature of a semi-sub is the scuttle valve. Hidden inside the hull, it's a simple system with devastating consequences. Flip it, and seawater floods the hold. Within minutes, the vessel is submerged and the cargo goes with it. This design makes every boarding operation a race against time. Teams must act swiftly, deciding how many bales they can safely remove before the boat sinks. The scuttle valve is reliable, crude, and terrifying in its simplicity. Law enforcement knows that hesitation can be catastrophic. Every second is a gamble. Stay too long and the boat disappears. Move too quickly and valuable evidence and cargo may be lost. The scuttle valve exemplifies the mindset of the smugglers: efficiency, ruthlessness, and a willingness to sacrifice millions of dollars in cargo to avoid capture. It is a stark reminder of the constant danger faced by those who patrol these waters. In September 2019, the cutter Valiant intercepted a 40-foot semi-submersible in the eastern Pacific. On board were around 12,000 pounds of cocaine. By the time the boarding team arrived, the hull was already unstable. Crews managed to recover a portion of the cargo, roughly half, before the vessel began to sink. The remaining 10,000 pounds went to the ocean floor, a vivid illustration of the stakes. Recovery operations are often impossible. Even when conditions allow, pulling cargo from a sunken hull is slow, dangerous, and requires specialized divers. Each incident underscores the precarious balance between law enforcement success and the ingenuity of criminal networks. It's a game played with millions of dollars on the line, and sometimes the ocean wins. When semi-subs sink, investigators attempt recovery only if conditions are favorable. Calm seas and shallow waters are required. Technical divers, sometimes from the FBI, painstakingly retrieve bales one by one from the ocean floor. The operation is methodical, risky, and often only partially successful. Many sunken shipments are lost forever, swallowed by the ocean's vastness. The recovery process highlights the combination of technology, patience, and human skill required to reclaim what was lost. It also underscores the lengths law enforcement must go to counter semi-submersible trafficking, a task that is both dangerous and necessary in the fight against global narcotics networks. Inside a semi-submersible, space is scarce. Imagine a long, narrow tube with barely enough room to stand upright. Diesel fumes hang in the air. Heat makes the environment stifling. Along the center or one side is a thin walkway with every other inch occupied by tightly packed bales of cocaine. The controls are minimal. Throttle, small wheel, a handful of gauges, and a handheld GPS. It's a hostile, claustrophobic environment engineered purely for transport efficiency. Comfort is irrelevant. Survival and stealth are everything. Crews operate in these conditions for days at a time, relying on skill, discipline, and nerves of steel to navigate both the ocean and the law. Inside the narrow tube of a semi-submersible, life is measured in inches and seconds. The smugglers are confined in a claustrophobic metal and fiberglass coffin. Heat clings to their bodies, mingling with diesel fumes that make every breath a chore. The air is thick, heavy with tension, and every movement must be calculated. There is no room to stumble, no space to hide. Brick after brick of cocaine surrounds them, stacked like walls, leaving only a slim path to navigate the length of the vessel. Days at sea blur into a haze of motion and monotony. The ocean is relentless, and the semi-sub's hull sways unpredictably with every wave. For those inside, it is a constant battle of balance, endurance, and nerves. One wrong step could tip the vessel or trigger the scuttle valve, flooding the hold and destroying the cargo. They know that law enforcement could appear without warning. A patrol cutter, a helicopter, a radar sweep. And in that instant, their meticulously planned operation could be over. The mental strain is immense. Smugglers must maintain focus while enduring the oppressive heat and suffocating air. Their minds are always calculating weight distribution, the tide, fuel levels, and the distance to the next rendezvous point. Paranoia is constant. Every sound, every shadow of the waves could signal discovery. Yet despite the danger, there is a trained rhythm to their movements. They have done this before, and they have survived. Experience teaches them to anticipate, to respond before danger strikes, to move efficiently in a space that seems designed to break the human body and mind. Fear, however, is never absent. The knowledge that a single misstep could mean the loss of hundreds of bales, and possibly their lives, hangs over them like a storm cloud. Yet there is also determination, the pressure from the cartel, the stakes of the shipment, and the knowledge that failure carries consequences far beyond the ocean waves. In these confined quarters, the smugglers are both prisoners and masters of their floating world, navigating a vessel that is part stealth craft, part coffin, part lifeline to a global narcotics empire. Semi-submersibles are a testament to criminal ingenuity. They are designed to evade every type of detection imaginable, blending with the ocean in a way that almost defies physics. Radar sees a shadow but not a vessel. Aerial surveillance spots a ripple but no craft. They are painted muted gray or sea blue to merge with waves, fiberglass hulls that don't reflect light, engines that produce minimal wake. Every detail is engineered to make the vessel invisible. Inside, the controls are simple yet effective. A throttle, a small wheel or tiller, a handful of gauges, and a handheld GPS unit are all a navigator needs to traverse hundreds of miles of open ocean. Smugglers plot their course with meticulous care, avoiding shipping lanes, patrol routes, and known surveillance areas. Weather patterns and ocean currents are analyzed and exploited. Even the timing of departure and speed are calculated to minimize detection. Over the years, semi-sub technology has evolved. Early models were crude, heavy, and slow, easily spotted by patrols. But each failure was studied, lessons learned, and each successive design improved stealth, capacity, and endurance. Today's vessels are streamlined, almost sculpted by necessity, able to carry tens of thousands of pounds of cocaine while barely disturbing the ocean's surface. Every trip is a high-stakes test of technology and skill. Smugglers rely on mechanical precision as much as human discipline. A GPS failure, an engine malfunction, or even a poorly timed wave could spell disaster. And law enforcement is constantly adapting, using infrared imaging, radar triangulation, and intelligence networks. Yet, despite these measures, semi-subs continue to appear, a reminder that innovation in smuggling often moves faster than technology in enforcement. When the Coast Guard spots a semi-sub, the chase begins. It is not always a race of speed. These vessels move slowly, deliberately, but the tension is relentless. Every movement must be precise, every decision critical. Waves crash against the hull. The cutter closes the distance. The crew prepares for a boarding that could end in disaster. Boarding a semi-sub is one of the most dangerous operations in maritime law enforcement. The vessel is narrow, unstable, and packed with thousands of pounds of cocaine. Diesel fumes choke the air, making every breath difficult. The hull rocks unpredictably with every wave, threatening to spill cargo or trap the boarding team inside. Every second matters. The scuttle valve could be triggered at any moment, flooding the hold and sinking the vessel with its precious cargo. Crews communicate with urgency, passing instructions in clipped tones over the roar of engines and waves. Decisions must be split-second. How many bales to remove, when to retreat, how to stabilize the vessel. One error can mean the loss of tens of thousands of dollars worth of cocaine, or worse, lives. Chases can last hours, sometimes stretching across hundreds of miles. Smugglers attempt evasive maneuvers, weaving with waves, taking advantage of darkness, weather, and currents. Yet the Coast Guard, trained and relentless, adapts with technology, strategy, and experience. It is a cat-and-mouse game played over open water, each side testing the other's ingenuity, nerve, and endurance. A single semi-sub bust reverberates far beyond the ocean. Each seizure disrupts the flow of narcotics, impacts cartel operations, and shakes markets. A shipment carrying tens of thousands of pounds of cocaine represents millions of dollars. When law enforcement intercepts it, the financial blow to the cartel is substantial. These operations also force cartels to innovate. Semi-submersibles are redesigned, routes are altered, security tightened. It is a constant cycle of adaptation and escalation. International cooperation becomes vital. Intelligence sharing, joint patrols, and coordinated strikes are necessary to counter these sophisticated networks. The semi-submersible is more than a vessel. It is a symbol of the global nature of modern crime. Every bust also sends a message. It demonstrates that despite the ingenuity of smugglers, law enforcement is vigilant, adaptive, and capable of intercepting even the most elusive shipments. Yet the ocean remains vast and the challenge persists. For every semi-sub seized, others continue their journey, a reminder that the struggle is ongoing, global, and far from over. Once a semi-sub is seized, the operation doesn't end. Smugglers are interrogated, prosecuted, and often face long sentences. Every arrest is documented, and the legal machinery moves with precision. The cocaine and other drugs are cataloged, stored, and eventually destroyed. For the Coast Guard and law enforcement, debriefings are critical. Every boarding provides lessons. What worked, what failed, how the semi-sub could have been improved. Psychological effects are real. Operating in confined, dangerous conditions, witnessing extreme risk, and facing near-death experiences leave lasting impressions. Crews must be trained to handle not only the physical demands, but the mental strain of high-stakes maritime operations. Media attention often follows, turning these encounters into public spectacles. While headlines highlight the massive drug busts, they rarely capture the danger, discipline, and precision required to execute the operation. Behind every story is a team operating on skill, instinct, and nerve, performing under pressure few could endure. As technology advances, so do the designs of semi-submersibles. Engineers and smugglers are exploring drones, automated vessels, and AI-assisted navigation systems. These innovations may reduce human risk and increase stealth, further complicating enforcement efforts. Law enforcement is responding with its own tools: improved radar, satellite surveillance, and predictive analytics. Yet the cycle of innovation continues. The ocean remains a testing ground for new methods, a vast and unpredictable environment where creativity, risk, and human ingenuity collide. The future of narco submersibles is a high-stakes arms race. As authorities adapt, smugglers evolve, and the line between detection and evasion grows thinner. The ocean hides its secrets well, and each new vessel pushes the limits of what is possible in maritime smuggling. The ocean is both ally and adversary. Semi-submersibles vanish beneath the waves, taking with them illicit cargo and untold stories. For law enforcement, each encounter is a blend of skill, courage, and risk. For the smugglers, each voyage is a calculated gamble, navigating a vessel that is at once lifeline and potential coffin. In these operations, the human element is as crucial as technology. Crews must act decisively, maintain focus under extreme conditions, and balance the weight of life, law, and millions of dollars in contraband. Smugglers must endure heat, fumes, and pressure, operating in confined spaces while avoiding detection. Ultimately, the story of semi-submersibles is a story of ingenuity, risk, and the vastness of the ocean. It is a reminder that, despite modern technology, the sea remains a domain of mystery, danger, and opportunity. For every vessel seized, others continue to roam the waves, invisible and elusive, waiting to test the limits of human skill and daring once more. Every semi-submersible begins as a blueprint, carefully planned and executed in secret. These vessels are not built in traditional shipyards. Instead, they are constructed in remote workshops, often hidden deep in jungles, along secluded riverbanks, or on isolated coastal plots far from prying eyes. Every corner of these clandestine facilities hums with activity, but it's all meticulously coordinated to avoid detection by authorities. Fiberglass is the material of choice, lightweight, strong, and nearly invisible to radar. The hull is coated with muted gray or sea blue paint, designed to blend with the ocean surface. Diesel engines, small but powerful, propel the vessel slowly and quietly, leaving minimal wake behind. Even the smallest design elements, the angle of the hull, the placement of vents, the curvature of the deck, are carefully calculated to minimize visibility and maximize stability. Engineering these vessels requires precision. Weight distribution is critical. Too much cargo in one section and the vessel may tip. Too little, and it becomes inefficient for transport. The interior is designed to hold the maximum number of bales possible, with minimal space wasted. Narrow walkways run along the center line, and every surface is optimized to handle the stress of long voyages across open ocean. The logistics don't stop with the vessel itself. Semi-subs must be synchronized with the broader supply chain. Cocaine is loaded carefully, often under the cover of darkness, onto the vessel for its long journey. Other boats, planes, or overland contacts may coordinate to receive the shipment once it reaches international waters or predetermined drop-off points. Timing is everything. A delayed launch, a change in weather, or a miscalculation in navigation can result in catastrophic failure. Security during construction is paramount. Even a single leak about the location or progress of a semi-sub can lead to interception, arrests, or the loss of millions of dollars in potential revenue. Smugglers employ guards, use coded communications, and take extreme precautions to protect their assets. By the time a semi-sub touches open water, it is the culmination of months, sometimes years, of meticulous planning, secrecy, and engineering designed to outsmart law enforcement at every turn. The semi-sub is a marvel of criminal engineering, but it is useless without a skilled crew. Smugglers undergo rigorous training to operate these vessels. Life aboard a semi-submersible is punishing. Confined quarters, intense heat, suffocating diesel fumes, and constant motion that never stops for days at a time. Crew members must be physically strong, mentally sharp, and able to endure conditions that would break most people. Navigation is a critical skill. Crews are trained to read GPS coordinates, interpret currents, and understand oceanographic conditions. They must know the locations of patrol routes, shipping lanes, and radar blind spots. Training includes simulations of emergencies, leaks, engine failures, and sudden encounters with law enforcement. Every crew member is drilled in procedures to stabilize the vessel, manage cargo, and respond quickly to potential threats. The mental aspect is equally important. Paranoia and fear are constant companions. Smugglers learn to maintain focus under extreme stress, making decisions in seconds that can determine success or failure. The confined environment tests their patience, coordination, and endurance. One misstep, one lapse in concentration, can result in disaster. The vessel capsizing, cargo being lost, or their own lives in jeopardy. Veterans distinguish themselves from novices by their calm under pressure. Experience teaches them how to move efficiently through tight corridors, anticipate the movements of the ocean, and react instinctively to danger. Training also emphasizes teamwork. Every maneuver, from steering to cargo handling, requires coordination. The semi-sub is not just a vessel. It is a high-stakes environment where skill, discipline, and nerve define survival. Stopping a semi-sub is one of the most challenging operations in maritime law enforcement. Coast Guard, DEA, and international partners employ a combination of intelligence, technology, and tactical expertise. It begins long before the vessel is sighted. Surveillance, informants, and satellite imagery help locate semi-submersibles in vast stretches of ocean. Once detected, the response must be swift and coordinated. Boarding a semi-sub is dangerous. The vessel is unstable, narrow, and heavy with cargo. Crews must balance on rolling decks, breathe in diesel fumes, and work against time. Law enforcement officers are trained to act decisively, to secure the hatch, prevent activation of the scuttle valve, and remove as much cargo as possible. Communication is vital. Teams coordinate across radios, cutting through wind and waves to synchronize movements. Air support often plays a crucial role. Helicopters provide real-time visuals, guiding cutters to intercept points, and monitoring for evasive maneuvers. Satellite tracking can help predict routes and rendezvous points. International collaboration ensures that cross-border operations succeed. Intelligence sharing, combined patrols, and joint legal frameworks make it possible to pursue these vessels across thousands of miles. Every boarding is a test of skill, courage, and timing. Crews must decide how many bales to remove, how long to stay, and when to retreat. Mistakes can cost the cargo, the vessel, or even lives. Yet these operations succeed more often than not due to preparation, discipline, and training honed over decades of confronting semi-submersibles in open seas. The ocean itself is an unpredictable adversary. High waves, sudden storms, and shifting currents amplify the danger of intercepting a semi-sub. Boarding teams often face situations where the hull is already unstable, and every step risks capsizing the vessel. The scuttle valve can be triggered at any moment, flooding the hold and sending thousands of pounds of cocaine to the ocean floor. There are stories of crews barely escaping with their lives. Boats roll violently with waves, cargo shifts unexpectedly, and diesel fumes make movement exhausting. Yet officers continue, understanding that hesitation can mean losing the entire shipment and allowing criminals to escape. High-risk encounters like these are not rare. They are the norm. Every mission tests human limits. Teams must balance courage, intelligence, and instinct against an environment designed to be unforgiving. The dangers are not only physical. Psychological strain weighs heavily. The constant threat of death or failure looms over every operation, leaving a lasting impact on those who brave the ocean to intercept semi-submersibles. Every semi-sub intercepted is a lesson for the cartels. They study failures meticulously, learning how law enforcement tracks, detects, and boards their vessels. Designs are upgraded, hulls are more streamlined, engines quieter, GPS systems smarter, and scuttle valves more sophisticated. Routes are altered, Departure times adjusted, and decoy vessels are deployed to mislead patrols. Communications are encrypted. Coordination with supply chains becomes more precise.